All right. Sorry about that, everybody, but we're very, very appreciative. It's not a secret. I told everybody that we were going to have him a very special guest, and we are lucky to have with us. And here we are a few days before Rosh Hashanah, and everyone is so busy. Rabbi Cadaner, Chabad of the Quad Cities. So let's get started. First of all, thank you very much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. And let's get started. First of all, not everybody knows, where are the Quad Cities? And what are they?
I would imagine if you live in Chicago area, you probably do know where the Quad Cities is. However, the Quad Cities is 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on from what part of Chicago. It's on the border between Iowa and Illinois.
Okay. And how long have you been Chabad of the Quad Cities?
16 years.
16 years. God bless. Wow, beautiful. So give us the backstory. You grow up, you're looking to spread the Rebbe's message to the world. How do you wind up a nice Jewish boy in the Quad Cities?
Fantastic question. It's actually, it was a divine providence. What happened was...
You people think everything is divine providence.
No, we know that it's divine providence, but this was really, it was an interesting story. What happened was, I was looking, so here I am learning in yeshiva. I was constantly involved with different shluchim. I knew when I get married, my goal was to go on shluchus. So while I'm in color for 1.5 years, I was looking into a few different options. One of them was California, and I was for whatever reason, for many reasons, but what the main reason was because it wasn't California wasn't for me, bottom line. So I decided that California is not going to work, and Rabbi Cadaner told me, if you don't take that specific place, don't ever look into California again. And I said, okay, thanks for letting me know. And California, I know, is out. And within 2 weeks, this story came up, the shluchus in the Quad Cities. What happened was my father-in-law was on a plane, and right next to him sat Rabbi Jacobson from Des Moines, Iowa.
Chabad of Des Moines.
Chabad of Des Moines. So what happened was, two Hasidim sit together, they start schmoozing. So he told me that he was not planning on going to the International Conference of Shluchim, but because he already planned on interviewing people for the Quad Cities, he decided that I guess he'll go. But there was some sort of a conflict, so maybe he was reconsidering. But bottom line is, as he mentioned that to my father-in-law, he says, my son-in-law is also looking for a place, perhaps maybe interview him as well. So he asked him, who is your son-in-law? So he says, Rabbi Cadaner. So he says, oh, and that's me. so he says, I know Shneir since he was a little boy. We grew up, we were neighbors. So he says, you know what? I'll interview him. He ended up just interviewing me and not the rest of the guys. And he decided, why look for someone who you don't know, as opposed to, you might as well work with someone that you do know. Anyway, so then he flew me down and we looked at the place. We had a meeting with about 30, maybe 40 people at the initial meeting who had interest in Chabad. And most of them are not here anymore for good reasons. But I decided that this sounds good. Anyway, so then I had a meeting with Rabbi Moskowitz, because it's on the border between Iowa and Illinois. You need to have 2 bosses. And we had a beautiful Farbrengen together. And then we signed the contract and everything was, the rest is history.
That's 17 years ago, coming up on 17 years.
Coming up,
so,
yep.
So you arrive in Quad Cities. It's kind of different than Brooklyn, different than Crown Heights, where you grew up. It's more rural. It's like a farm town. And you say, hello, I'm here. How do you get started? What's the first thing you did?
So as I mentioned before, first we had a core of people. So that was already, it was better than going to starting a place in California. just because over there you have to start everything from scratch. Here, I didn't feel like I have to start anything from scratch. There was already a core people who had interest in Chabad. And of course, once we arrived, it was right before Pesach, and immediately started with the mitzvah matzah to distribute matzah to people. So I asked those people if they, first of all, if they ever heard of Shmor matzah. Most of them did not. But I told them, please give me names that you know. And then one of the ladies gave me, which is I guess, I mean, we're being recorded here, but we should not share this. But one of the ladies, one of the ladies that worked at the Jewish Federation, she was the director of the Jewish Federation. She says, Rabbi, I'll give you the list of the Federation, but please don't tell anyone. So she did, and I sat down with her and I said, please tell me who is and who isn't. In other words, who is Jewish, who is not Jewish. And she gave me the whole rundown of almost every single person there. I almost knew before I came to meet them. I already knew who they are and what they are about. And that was really the beginning. And it took off very well. I mean, it was a very successful goal from the start.
So give us a sense of the community in the Quad Cities. What are the people there? What brings them there? Are they born there? Have they moved there recently? What's the feel of the city?
Okay, so majority, it's a good question. Majority of the people here are obviously natives, but over the years, John Deere was at some point pulling a lot of executives who are Jewish. Then you have a lot of people into real estate and that kind of doctors, real estate, or whatever the case may be, lawyers. But lately, that's been shrinking, the number-wise, as far as doctors and lawyers. It's been more in the real estate.
Is there a historical Jewish community in the Quad Cities, or is it kind of fresh? Is there any other infrastructure? You mentioned Federation. Are there synagogues? Is there any kind of Jewish infrastructure that's been in the Quad Cities for any kind of extended period of time?
Wow, it's a good question. It's a long and short, I guess. The long history of the Quad Cities is that up until like maybe 70 years ago, or even less, there was approximately seven Orthodox schools.
7 Orthodox schools.
7 Orthodox schools. Today, the only Orthodox shul that there is Chabad. So the conservative, the Orthodox merge into, they consolidated. Finally, they had one place, and then they consolidated with the conservative. The conservative now, as of COVID, just a few months ago, a few months ago, they decided to merge together between the conservative and the reform, and that is, of course, because they have to find a way to counter the Chabad success. So they merged together, and they bought a building. They're both selling their buildings. One of them already sold. The other one is on the market, and they bought a building together so they could be all under one roof. So Friday night will be Reform, and Saturday will be Conservative, and it's the same rabbi, Reform rabbi. But that unfortunately, this is where from a big Jewish community, there was a butcher store here. There was I went to the cemetery. It's interesting to see it. There was also a lot of Hasidic names here. So at some point there was a lot of Hasidim here as well.
So you talked about COVID. So you're there 17 years. COVID hits like it did the rest of the world. What's it like there in Quad Cities? Is it very bad? Is it sort of under control? And how did you and Chabad of Quad Cities adjust? And was there any tension between the Iowa side and the Illinois side?
There was a lot of tension between the Iowa side and the Illinois side. Iowa side was open the whole time. Illinois was closed for the most part. Then it opened with conditions, and now they're looking to go back to mask mandates indoors and whatever. On the Iowa side, it's not. So it's always been a struggle. It's where do you draw the line? And it's a tough question. We try to balance and accommodate everyone, although it's very hard to, two Jews, three opinions. But COVID, actually, for Chabad, COVID has been a very busy year, and also a very successful year. First of all, Kiwi Kids, for those who know, obviously from Chicago. So we had over a dozen families that we gave every single week.
It's food supplies for families. It's just not, everyone is not familiar. When they closed the schools, they repurposed the school lunch money into just giving away food packages. And it's called Kiwi Kids Wellness Initiative. And it's an opportunity, Rabbi Cadaner there here in Chicago, of course, to distribute food, which is not only the helpful, but it's kosher food. So people who may not otherwise always be particularly kosher food are now getting a significant supply. I mean, they did it up here. It just ended, at least as of right now. And it's a significant amount of food that can really sustain the family almost for a whole week. I mean, not maybe everything, but vegetables and milk and meat and so on and so forth. And to be able to provide kosher for them is not only the mitzvah of helping them financially, but it's also giving them the opportunity to have kosher food. So you've been able to do that for a dozen families in Quad Cities.
Right. So we did it for over a dozen families, but until the last week, which was last week, last week. So we had we were down to approximately a dozen families. So
when you talk about kosher food, just since you bring it up with the Kiwi Kids, so how do you get kosher food in Quad Cities? I mean, how do you get mezuzahs? How far away? What's the closest? Let's start maybe in the beginning. What's the closest, what we might consider sort of significant size Jewish community? Are you closer to Des Moines? You're closer to Chicago, Milwaukee?
Chicago is the closest, obviously. Chicago and Des Moines are the same distance, but if you're going already to a place to buy stuff, actually Des Moines also sometimes goes to Chicago to pick up stuff. So
you got to come to Chicago to get your supplies, your kosher
it's either
meat,
we
milk.
come, right? It's either we come, or there's always someone coming and going. At least that's what it has been the last few years.
So if a baby boy is born in Quad Cities, you bring a mile in from Chicago.
Actually, a mile we do bring in from Postville, just because we have a relationship with Rabbi Klein there. Yankel Klein, so far it worked for us.
Okay, and what about your own family? I mean, what do your kids do? You don't have a cheder in Quad Cities, so how is that addressed?
Thanks to Chabad, we always come up with you see, we were already prepared for COVID before everyone else was. See, it's called the Jewish Online School, Shluchim Online School, and that's what we do. We teach our kids through online, basically, just the way we're having conversation now.
You've been doing this for years already.
Yeah, so the kids have been they know better than me exactly how to do what on the computer, and you know what? Thank God it's been working. I mean, obviously it's not. I wouldn't say you can't compare that to regular school, but we supplement everything else. Whatever the school doesn't, so we do, and we focus on giving them extracurricular stuff and other means of entertainment for them.
So you've been in Quad Cities 17 years. What would you describe as the biggest challenge of being in Quad Cities? Maybe you can share with us what's the biggest reward that you've seen in Chabad of Quad Cities.
Well, the biggest, let's start with the challenge, because we want to leave off with on a good note, with a positive note.
I'm not letting you go after this, but I got no more questions.
No, I'm just saying, but within the question itself. So the story is like this. The biggest challenge really in the Quad Cities is obviously the chinuch education for our kids. It is online. It's not it's not the most ideal thing for anyone to do, but we make it work. It is a challenge, but we make it work. At the same time, that is also our reward as well. So you see, the Rebbe spoke about the concept of taking the shluchim, the emissaries' children on his shoulders, and we thank God. That's that's the reward you get, and so far it has been it has been a tremendous reward for us.
Rabbi, we have every Wednesday night, as I talked to you earlier today, we have these interviews, and we've interviewed shluchim in small towns and remote places. And in a beautiful way, they all their stories seem to be the same story. They came to a place that nobody thought Chabad would be welcomed or interested in. They started with nothing or less than nothing, and then they did everything. And then here they are, 17 years, 20 years, 2 years, 6 months. And that's true whether it's Chabad of Aruba, we spoke to last week, Cayman Islands, and so on. Is there something that you can share with us that you would teach them, that we can pass on the next time we have somebody from some remote island somewhere, and he's just getting started? We can say, we had somebody who's in a somewhat similar situation to you, and he's 17 years in, and here's a piece of advice that he could share, something you could think of that we could share with the next special guest we have.
Okay, so I guess where do we start? Okay. One of our biggest challenges at the beginning of Chabad being established in the Quad Cities was that we had the Jewish Federation. They were our biggest obstacle. They still are in some ways, but we, we're by far greater, and we're surpassed them. I mean, I'm not even worried about them anymore. But the bottom line was that they were constantly trying to undermine Chabad and doing different things. Them together with the conservative and the reform, all the rabbis got together. They were they even did a terrible libel on Chabad. And it just the whole thing collapsed in their face, which I don't know if we need to get into details here, but the bottom line was the following year after that. So this was the first year we were here. The following year we decided so this is the second year we decided we're going to make a calendar, and we had maybe 3 or 4 advertisers on the calendar, and they went after those advertisers, and they were telling them not to advertise. And when I heard that, I said, this year I'm going to have 15 ads in my calendar. And I worked hard, and I got 15 ads. I actually got 17 ads. But anyway, in the following year, I had the same situation. And I never went down to their level. I never went to say, they're to bring the dirty politics out to the public. Mind you, none of them were Jewish advertisers. I deliberately did not choose Jewish advertisers because I didn't want to solicit Jewish people. Then they'll come back and say, you're taking money from our members, etc. So the following year, because they had because we had the obstacles, and some of them were like not sure whether they want to advertise or not, I said, well, this year we're going to have 30 ads. Well, I have to tell you right now, we have 70 ads.
Wow.
And it's been a tremendous success to us, and it would never be a success if not for having an obstacle. So sometimes you need to have the goya shebekirbecha. You need to have the enemy within, so to speak, to get you going. And if you don't have it, it's okay. It's not the shluchim emissaries call me all the time, and they want to know how do you do soba with the calendar. And I tell them, all you have to do is convince yourself that there's someone is out there to get you. You have within you have someone's going to be out there to get you, and just focus on that. You want to be successful. You need to raise X amount and make it your goal, and don't stop until you reach your goal.
Well, Rabbi, we applaud your tenacity and for keeping up the great work there. 17 years in Quad
I want to
Cities.
share a
and
story. I want to share a story.
Please. Love stories.
This is a story that just happened this week. It's a
Oh.
connection to a story that took place 19 years ago.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So we're going to go back 19 years. And then 19 years ago, I decided that it was 20 years ago. I decided that I'm going to I was looking to make on Friday, as students, we go see different Jews in different places. So I decided that I'm going to start a new route. And this was because I saw a sikha, teachings of the Rebbe. And the Rebbe says about the Greenwich Village, that is the lowest of the lowest. That's what the Rebbe writes. It's the lowest place. So I said, this is where I'm going to go. I circled that. I looked on the map where it is, and I said, I'm going there. I'm going to start a route there. And I started a route. It became very successful. One of the places that I went to was a photo shop. Now today we don't have those kind of stores to develop pictures.
It's like ancient history here, Rabbi. Come on.
Yeah. So what happened was, right next door to it, there was a Ben and Jerry's, and this is why it's important. We're going to talk about this in a moment. One second, we're going to talk about this in a moment. So the guy tells me, the owner of Ben and Jerry's is a Yid. So I go there, and the guy, I ask for the owner. I see the owner. It looks like a Yid, and I asked him, would you like? Are you Jewish? I would like to put on film. So he tells me, in a polite way, tells me, get out of the store. And I'm not going to use the word you used, but okay. The following week, I go back, and he's mighty upset with me. The third week, I wasn't sure whether to go or not to go, debating. So the young kid that came with me, Mifsaim, who happens to be today by marriage my cousin, tells me, are we going to go again this week? I said, of course. Like I was debating, but once he asked me, I said, no, of course. And we went, and this time he goes and he locks the door and he calls the police. He tells me, so I said, listen, it's an opportunity. So I started explaining why we came and what is Chabad. And the guy opens the door and says, just get out of the store and don't come back again. Okay. A week later goes by, of course, on Friday. I go to the photo shop, and then he tells me, I think you need to go to the next door neighbor. I said, the guy doesn't want to see me. I said, no, you need to go. He's a Jew. You need to see him. Now, the Photoshop guy is a Sephardic Jew. He's warm. This guy's an Ashkenazi, is whatever. Anyway, so I decided, you know what? I built up my guts and I said, I'm going in. I don't care. I'm going. I go in there, and the employee tells me, unfortunately, his mother passed away. So I said, I'm his rabbi. Could you please give me his number? I want to give my condolences. So he gives me what does he know? He gives me the number. I call him and I leave him a message. The following week, I came just to see how he was doing, and I didn't even get the opportunity to walk into the door. He's already, Rabbi, come on in. Anyway, he says, I want you to wait here. My son is going to come. Let me call him. He's going to come. I want him to meet you because he has some questions. His grandmother passed away, and he has some questions. I said, perfect. We sat. We waited a few minutes. In the meantime, we were talking, and when he came, I told him the greatest gift you could give your grandmother right now is to put on tefillin. So he goes and he puts on tefillin, and then I turned to his father and I said, would you like to put on tefillin as well in honor of your mother? Show your son what it means to respect a mother. So he says, sure. We put on tefillin, and that was it. And ever since then, we became very, very close. Sure enough, if you could look him up, Joel Gasman, you could look him up. Someone sent me an article about what's going on with Ben and Jerry's, and he's affected by this whole thing because he's a Jew. and he lost a lot of business, right? So I decided, once I saw the article, I said, I have to give him a call and give him some chizuk, to give him some, encourage, basically to build him up again. And he was like literally crying to me on the phone, and like he was so excited that here he is, getting a phone call, and he got actually a few.
Is that him? Is that him?
That's not him. No, that might be a store, but that's not him.
No. Okay. Here's his store.
This is him.
This young guy, this guy here
No, yeah,
with the gray
that
hair.
could be him.
There
It
he
sounds
is.
like it. It looks like it's him. Yeah.
This is
sounds
an
like it.
article. Wait, is this him?
Yeah, this
Is
is
that
him.
him?
This is
There he
yeah,
is.
Yeah. Yeah. This is Joel. Yeah. So anyway,
I'll put the
now
link
he's
to the article in the chat. If people want to read the article. I
Yeah.
just Googled it while you were talking. Not that I'm not paying attention to every word you're saying. Don't worry.
So anyway, Joel has been a very, and then he told me the first thing he says after I gave him my encouragement, whatever. He tells me, I'm gonna tell my son that you called. It's gonna make a world of difference. His son today is Shomer Shabbos,
Wow.
and it happened to be that after that whole story, he started learning more. And when he moved to Manhattan, he called me up. We put a mezuzah on his apartment, and then he became very active with the Orthodox community in the Upper West Side, and every now and then with Chabad as well.
Beautiful.
In other words,
Rabbi,
he doesn't forget.
that's the greatest. You turn the negative into a positive. You're a man who turns
Exactly.
the negative into the positive. And we're in a tough time now all around the world with Corona and so on. We got to turn that negative into a positive. I want to thank you, 1,000 thank yous, especially a few days before Rosh Hashanah. And I just called you this afternoon and you right away said yes and really appreciate it. I want to wish you Hatzlacha, continued abundant, uncalculated success in all of your great work there in Quad Cities. And of course, Aksiva v'chasima toiva l'shana toiva m'sukkah, a good, healthy, wonderful, sweet year for you and your family. Keep doing what you're doing, turning negatives into positives. Beautiful.
100%. And Aksiva Chasima Teva, good Gebench year. Everyone should be inscribed and sealed for a good year, healthy year, a year of Mashiach. That's
Amen.
what we need.
That's what we need.
Everything
Okay,
else,
everybody.
everything else is a compromise. So just Mashiach.
Mashiach. Tomorrow night, Parsha, last one of the year. So we'll see you tomorrow night, 9:00 tomorrow night for Parsha. Rabbi Cadaner, you're the best. Thank you. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you so much.